So are you familiar with the concept of self-enhancing and self-defeating cycles?
No.
Okay, so with the cycles, essentially what we're looking at with these is it's the whole idea of the stories, the self stories we tell
Mm-hmm.
ourselves and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And within that idea of self-story, like if I get into a self-enhancing cycle, I'm going through a process where it's like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try something. Now, this is a brand new thing I've never tried before, so I fail at it. And when I fail, whether or not I go and get good at this thing or I just abandon it altogether
Mm-hmm.
depends on what I tell myself about that failure. So
Okay.
if I tell myself that, let's say I'm not, I tell a common one a lot of adults tell themselves is they're just not math people. I'm just not good at math. And what really happened is somewhere along the school lines, we kind of had a hard time getting the math down. And because we had a hard time with it, especially since some people are just naturals at it, so you
Mm-hmm.
have somebody in class who's just like a whiz and instantly picks it up, and you're sitting here struggling, and then you tell yourself, well, I'm just not very good at math. And because I'm telling myself I'm not good at math, I'm not taking opportunities to learn the math, so I'm reinforcing that, and I'm just going to abandon that altogether. But if I were willing to go towards this self enhancing cycle,
Mm-hmm.
I'd fail my math test. I'd say, you know what? I probably just didn't study right. I need to change the way I study.
Okay.
And then the next time, I'm going to go and instead of spending 3 hours studying for it, I spend 6 hours studying for it. Or instead of doing a study session with my friends, I put together some flashcards. I change something about my study
Mm-hmm.
process.
Mm-hmm.
Presumably, I found something that works at least a little bit better. I see results, and I continue to go through this process until I master that skill set. So, that concept of failure, like failure, we always think is such a scary word, and no one's ever supposed to fail, and students shouldn't fail in the classroom, they should always succeed. But that's unrealistic. I mean, everybody's going to fail when they try to do something new. We have to fail before we succeed. That's just
Mm-hmm.
the reality of learning.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can find ways to, when our students fail, whether or not that failure is going to be good or bad for their mindset depends on how we respond to it. I remember when I was working on my master's degree, like when I signed up for graduate school, I already had this mindset of like, I was lucky to get a bachelor's degree. You know, that 20-page paper almost destroyed me. I'm just not a student. I'm not going to do well in this master's program. What am I doing? But I had the job. The job required the master's degree, so I decided I was going to try it out. And my very first class, very first assignment I turned in, actually, that class, I had one of the toughest teachers in the school. And like the first assignment I turn in, I do what on undergraduate work you do when you take an online class. You read the chapters they assign, and for your response, you essentially summarize the chapters. Because most of the time, at least with my undergraduate class when I was in online, they just wanted to see that you read the chapters. That's all they were really looking for.
Okay.
So I do the same thing in this class, and I get like a 30% on my first assignment. So I'm already in this mindset of like, I'm not good enough to
Mm-hmm.
graduate from graduate school. And now I get this assignment, which is all the proof I need that I was right. I'm not good enough. And if the teacher would have just given me a 30%, called it a day,
Mm-hmm.
chances are that would have been my only semester of graduate school. I would have dropped out. I wouldn't have finished it. I wasn't smart enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what the teacher did. What the teacher decided to do was he sent me an email with that score. He said something to the effect of, you got a 30% on this assignment. Now, I understand that this is your first experience with graduate school, so maybe you just aren't ready for the rigor of what we expect at this level. So, here are a couple of pointers as to how you could have
Okay.
made this assignment better. Now, if you want, you can accept this 30%. That's up to you. But if you'd like to try again with these pointers, feel free
Okay.
to try again, resubmit. And me, like, I wanted to do better. So when he gave me that feedback, like, I went, I redid the assignment. What he was looking for is what he would do is, like, he'd assign us 100 pages you'd have to read. and then he'd pick like one sentence out of all of those 100 pages, and he'd want you to give 2-page analysis of like that one little statement. So he wanted you to go incredibly deep on this one statement. And so once like I learned that and I got that feedback and I did that, the next assignment he emails me, and it's not just a good job or anything. Like he's excited, like, wahoo, this is exactly what I was looking for. I knew you had it in you. Like
Yes,
all
nice
of this
encouragement.
enthusiasm and encouragement. And because of that approach when I failed, because he addressed my failure in that way, the rest of graduate school, I think more or less, I got A's in all my classes. I got most of the points. There were a couple B's towards the end. I kind of started to get tired of it all, and I didn't put in the same energy. But the ability was there, and I knew the ability was there because he took that time. Without him taking that time, I would have dropped out. I wouldn't have gotten a master's degree. And I mean, I would be thinking I'm not smart enough to be a graduate student. And so when our students fail, I think it's so important for us to address that failure in the right way to make sure they get the mindset that if I just do things a little differently, I can get it, rather than I'm not the kind of person that can do this.
You're so right, Mr. Blaine. And you were sharing your experience, and it brought me, and you use math, and my experience is with math the same way. For me, all along, I had been doing well, right? At secondary school, for some reason, math, I just felt like math and I were not friends. So much so that I remember clearly for math class, when the tutor came, well, he would say, those of you who are ready to really push on and do this thing, you sit on the right. Those of you who feel, well, you just don't have what it takes and you're not prepared for all of that, go to your left. I would comfortably go to the left.
Okay.
Yes, I would comfortably get up and go and sit on the left. Of course, I was not alone. You know, I would do it. I wrote CXC. I think I got the last mark that you could have gotten to pass. That's what I got. All along, I had been telling myself, oh, this math thing is just not my thing. I'm a language person, I'm a this person, you know. And we tell ourselves that. And then here, instead of that teacher trying to get all of us on board, trying to get all of us to like it and try, at least put some effort into it, he just gave us the option. You know, those of you who are ready to go for this side. Those of you, so I mean, obviously, so I had already made up my mind.
So the people that he put on the left, he didn't do anything with them. He kind of ignored them.
He gave us some basic stuff to do.
But the people on the right, he really helped push them to get
towards
there.
the exam. Yes. Yeah, so those of us on the left, he gave us some basic stuff to do. And can you believe we were comfortable with that?
Yeah.
At the time, we felt that, you know, it's okay, that's where I belong.
Right.
And this happened like this. Like I said, I wrote the exam, barely passed it. Became a teacher.
Yeah.
Went on to teachers college. And then when I got to teachers college and had to do math at that level, that there was that one professor. He always used to come to the class, introduce the class with some kind of situational problem. And Mr. Blaine, every time that was my kind of thing.
Yeah.
So every time he gave it, I was engrossed in that and working my way through it and solving it.
Okay.
And then there he was saying, but I told him, just imagine he came and I told him, well, sir, I am not a math person. I mean, I'm just here because I have to be, you know.
Yeah,
so it's almost like I was telling him, don't expect too much, you know.
Right.
Yes, but then he had that approach. And it's like I succeeded at it every time.
Yeah.
And he would say, but I just don't understand why you keep saying, or why you said that you are not a math person, you're a genius.
Yeah.
You know, and he would keep telling me that and telling me that. And you know, I actually got to love math. I actually got to love math, but I don't necessarily like just following the formula and just doing, you know. I like the situational kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Even with solving certain math concepts and whatever, I had my own way of doing it.
Yeah.
But back then, the teacher did not recognize that. The teacher just felt, okay, I was supposed to use that formula, didn't use it, cannot get it in the end. Sometimes I would get it,
Mm-hmm.
but the end, ask me to how I got it, Mr. Blaine. It was just totally different from what the teacher was doing. But
Right.
the teacher was not prepared to accept that,
Right.
and
But you
made
did
me now
something that
doubt.
worked.
Yes. And that one teacher, just like you had that professor who,
Yeah.
gave you the feedback,
Yeah.
that one teacher made the difference for me at teachers college at that age.
Mm-hmm.
He made a difference. And up to now, when I meet him,
Yeah.
I keep reminding him of that.
Yeah.
The man who made me love math, the man who made me change my mind about math. Yeah, so
Right.
it's just so important what we tell ourselves
Yeah.
and what we get from the outside, not just
Yeah.
us telling ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
but the encouragement, the feedback that we get from the outside.
Yeah.
Yes, it's just really, really important.